Our mission is to help girls and women know their God-given value, identity, and purpose, experience vibrant mental health, and lead flourishing lives. So we offer several things. We do young women's retreats and conferences for teen girls, young women, and the women who love them. So we've done, over 20, 30 events by now for over 10,000 girls and women.
We're focused a lot in 2025 on fitness. We have already talked about mental fitness and emotional fitness and spiritual fitness. But today we're really looking at mental health and our own mental health journeys and how fit are we in that area and how fit are the teen girls in today's world who are so influenced by social media. You're going to get to hear from Allie Marie, who is all about helping a young girl understand that she is fearfully and wonderfully made. And Allie has devoted the last 20 years to her ministry, Wonderfully Made, and has a whole new campaign all about social media that's coming up. So stay tuned for this fun episode. You're going to be so glad that you tuned in. Welcome to the Generous Girl podcast. Today is a special day as I have Allie Marie Smith here with me in the studio. And Allie is the founder and director of Wonderfully Made, a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping teen girls and young women know their true value. She's an award-winning author, speaker, podcast host, and certified life coach, and lives in North Santa Barbara County, where she loves to surf and lives with her husband, Paul, and their golden retriever, Gidget. And she's also the author of the book called Wonderfully Made, Discovering the Identity, Love, and Worth You Were Created For. So welcome, Allie.
Hi, Kim. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, it's such a joy to have you on the podcast. And I'm going to do a shout out to Holly Wiley, who connected us. And I think it's just so beautiful, the ministry that you've been leading for the last 20 years since you were in college. Mm-hmm. And we really haven't had a guest on the Generous Girl podcast who has focused so much as you have with young girls, mental health, and now this entire new venture you have in a book that you have coming out this summer all about social media. So today is going to be a great episode as we unpack your wisdom, the various experts that you work with in this field, and how you are really helping young women to see the power of social media, positive and negative way, and how to reclaim their minds for God's kingdom. So I can't wait to just have you start sharing. So why don't we start about just the question of how did you decide to write your book, and tell us the title and more about it.
Yeah. So which book, Wonderfully Made or the new one?
The newest one. Yes.
Okay, sure. So my new book that comes out in July, Social Media Reset, a 30-day guided journey to unplug, reconnect with God, and reclaim your joy. I've worked with girls and women for over 20 years. And as you know, things have changed a lot. My passion really has been to help girls and women know their God-given value, identity, and purpose. And when I started Wonderfully Made in college, I did see this theme of us not knowing our value and our worth and different struggles. And those are issues there. But the mental health crisis that is really unprecedented that we're seeing among girls today really has been caused from social media. Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, really points to that. Mm-hmm. Today, about 1 in 3 teen girls are seriously contemplating attempting suicide. About 3 in 5 feel persistently sad and hopeless. Rates of suicide, hospitalizations, depression have gone up over 150% since the onset of social media in 2010. So it is a huge, huge issue. And personally, when I was younger, I really battled with severe depression. And outside of high school, really tried to end my life. And that's really how I ended up coming to the Lord. 2 weeks after I graduated, I found myself in a really deep and a really dark, debilitating depression. And it was through that experience, though, when this girl, it looked like I had the life together, mm-hmm. Good student, good athlete, and I came apart. And now I'm kind of giving you the full story.
That's fine. That's fine. We have
time. And, here I was in the hospital, the age of 18, because of many complexities, severely broken as a girl could be. Everything that I placed my value and my identity in was really taken from me. And I was just so desperate for hope and always believed in God. But I asked for a Bible, and I met Jesus for myself. And, I read over the Gospels, and I saw that Jesus loved the broken, and he came to offer them hope and healing. And I was as broken as a girl could be. And one day in a hospital chapel, as a woman sang Amazing Grace, I surrendered my life to the Lord, and he completely transformed me. I had struggles with mental health challenges even after that, since that. But he radically changed my life. And with that was my passion, is that I wanted to other girls and other women to know their value. And then it comes simply in being a child of God, that we have been fearfully or lovingly, wonderfully made in his image. So that all works back to the book, because, I wrote my book, Wonderfully Made, Discover the Value, Identity, and Worth You're Created For. And that came out in 2021. That was my COVID project. So that's really our whole ministry's message in a book. And so Social Media Reset it became so important to me because of what I've seen happen to girls and women. It's been tragic, seeing them question their gender, confused, suicidal, lonely, such an increase in eating disorders. And, we've always had mental health issues, right? They've always been there.
Sure.
But what's happening today is unprecedented, and it's completely preventable. And it is destroying girls' lives. Girls are spending about 7 to 9 hours a day on social media, on their phones. They're constantly living through their phones. There's so much that comes with that. The comparisons, what it is doing to our souls, whether you're a teen girl or an adult woman, we're so far removed from the kind of life we've been created for, and it's really making us sick, Social media is a world that we were not designed to live in.
Right.
So God just gave me downloaded this book. It's a 30-day journey where you take a break from social media. You come back to God. You get excited about the miracle of your life. You fall asleep to the lives of other people, but you live wide awake to the gift of your one and only precious life. More than it really is like a social media reset. It's really this invitation to live a wholehearted and flourishing life rooted in God. And so that's the book. I'm so excited about it. We're encouraging girls and women to go through it with their friends. So they all go off social media together for 30 days, cultivate true community, have really amazing experiences, and just experience a lot of breakthrough and intimacy with God too, as they go the journey.
I love it. It's so needed. And, you mentioned just comparison, and I've heard so many times men compete, women compare. And so prior to social media, you'd have magazines, or you would have movies, or you'd have television shows, but you wouldn't have something in your face right there on your bedside table or your coffee table that you could just pick up and constantly be telling your brain lies of the comparison game. And the thing too, that's just so sad is when we compare, God looks at us and says, don't compare, because you're also unique, and you can't think an apple is an orange. Like, you're an apple and you're a pineapple and you're an apricot and all the different things that, the fruits is an example of how we're also fearfully and wonderfully made. And if we live in our own lane of our experiences, our family of origin, our current family unit, and all that brings, that's never going to look identical to someone else's. But yet on social media, you look at it and think, oh, they're just like me. But no, they're not. And the comparison piece, it literally, whatever age we're at, can kill us. And the other piece too, when my youngest, like everything with the phone and social media was just coming out when she was in about 8th grade, going into 9th grade. And we just missed it, in a good way, of what happens to 10-year-olds when they're on phones and everything. But, even the birthday party factor of, like, in my generation, if you weren't invited to a party, you really wouldn't know about it unless someone talked about it. But then now, when you're not invited and all the pictures are there at the party that the 10-year-old, didn't attend, it's just heartbreaking. It's so hard to know for the the 10-year-old or the 50-year-old or 70-year-old, how to mentally work through that in a healthy way and not feel like you were rejected by your friends and all that comes with it. Well, also talk about, I love on your website, you have workshops too. So you're trying to, raise awareness, but not only do you have workshops you can purchase, but you can also attend an in-person retreat. So this is a, national podcast, so people hear it all over. So I love that, because if they're out here, where you're doing a retreat, great. But if they're not, they could still purchase one of your workshops.
Sure. Yeah. So Wonderfully Made is our ministry. It's what I started when I was 20. And our mission is, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to help girls and women know their God-given value, identity, and purpose, experience vibrant mental health, and lead flourishing lives. So we offer several things. We do young women's retreats and conferences for teen girls, young women, and the women who love them. So we've done, over 20, 30 events by now for over 10,000 girls and women. We've done our events in California and Hawaii. And we have our next one this year, retreat for young women and women who love them here in San Luis Obispo, California. So we do our events. We have a professional course that I produced for teen girls and young women that touches upon all the hot button issues. So that's available on our website. And then, yes, we do have new, very affordable mental health workshops that are biblically based. One on overcoming fear and anxiety, another on depression, creating a balanced relationship with food, eating. We also offer life coaching for young women, teen girls, moms. We do that as well. And we have a new online community where you can access it with the tap of an app and get prayer and talk to one another. And then, our big initiative that we're doing now is our new social media campaign. So, we've done events. For one of our largest events, we had about 3,000 girls and young women there. And our conferences, our events are amazing. They're so life-changing. And it's so special every time we've been able to do one. But for years, I've thought, every girl, every woman needs to know what it means to be wonderfully made, because we believe that when you know Jesus and you know your value, it changes everything. Right. And just the truth is many girls don't know that they're not an accident. They're not the result of random cosmic collisions. And that's part of the problem is girls don't even know why they're here. They're not even sure if there is a God, if there's a God who made them, if they have value, where does their value come from? And so we thought for so long, how do we tell them even just, you are wonderfully made? Because when a girl or a woman gets that in her heart, it changes her whole life. And so it just kind of has come, and now we are using social media, which has really been used to destroy so many girls' lives. We're going to be using it for good. And so we're raising support to purchase these paid social media ads right now through YouTube. So, usually on YouTube, you have to watch 5 seconds of an ad to watch the next video. So we're going to be creating these storytelling ads where right now I simply come on in front of a girl on her computer and I say, you are so loved. There's a purpose for your life. And whatever you're going through, you can get through the other side. And I share my story with them. I say, if you have any thoughts of hurting yourself or ending your life, text 988, call the suicide hotline number, and then they're linked to our landing page, which goes to hotline number. And we're just so excited because for 10 cents a view, we're able to share this life-changing message to masses of girls throughout the world through social media. And so it's pretty exciting to think about. So we're just kind of fine-tuning that campaign right now. I'm really excited to be able to bring hope and to girls and women through that way. So that's who we are as a ministry. That's what we do. Would love for any of your amazing women in your community to visit our website and see how we can encourage them or serve them and come alongside the young women in their lives too.
That's excellent. And, we're talking about today with the pillars of faith. Obviously, that's interwoven in your whole story and your ministry. But when we talk about fitness, it's more of the mental health journey of fitness. And I love that you have a way that they can text in for more information. And also, I mean, to make it clear, like social media is not all bad, right?
Absolutely. Not here to bash it. It's amazing.
Exactly.
It can be so amazing.
It can be inspiring, and the creativity side is amazing. So, but to your point though, about being able to text in for help is so beautiful. And I mentioned on another podcast a few episodes ago, at one point we did an event with Love Has No Limits with LA, and Justin Bieber was involved and did at the SoFi Center a concert. Mm-hmm. And anyone in their teens would volunteer at a local project in the city for a week. I mean, during the week they just needed 3 hours of volunteer time. Then they would get a wristband, and then they could come in, and he did his concert for free. He donated his time. But what we had on the Jumbotron was a number you could text, because he shared his story with mental health. And then instead of just being this superstar, rock star on stage, he was very humble and wanted people to know how he had struggled, but there is help. And here, text to this number. And then it connected people to all kinds of resources in Los Angeles. So the beauty of technology, social media, and using it for good is fabulous, because the reach is huge. And like you said, the cost per click is very affordable. So that is really exciting. And I can't wait to just follow that on YouTube to, stumble upon your your ad and then hear your story that way. And also talk about your Love a Latte campaign, because that's also very creative.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we are a nonprofit, and we have a great community of girls and women of all ages. We are really an intergenerational ministry, which is so cool, because we really believe, us younger girls need older girls, and we all need each other. And so, everything that we do is supported through generous individuals in our community. So we're just inviting people, young women maybe who are listening to our podcast or, want to be a part of it, is, just for the cost of a latte, a month, they can come alongside us, help make everything that we do. So yeah, that's Love Her Latte campaign. And
it's a great idea.
We're excited about that, because there's such a big need out there, and we just, I just feel like God is 20 years in, but it just feels like we're really just getting started. And so, of course, that support helps, make it possible for us to really share the love and the hope of Christ and do some really neat things to help bring freedom back to girls and women.
So exciting. I like the intergenerational piece too. And in our pre-conversation, you had just talked about having the older women come alongside with what's happening with this social media epidemic, pandemic, however we want to call it. And that it's all of us linking arms together and helping the young girls especially see that they are fearfully and wonderfully made. And we're there to be their cheerleaders. And it's really great. Because it takes a village, it takes an army of women to all come together to do that. Do you do anything specifically for moms and their daughters, their teen daughters, like mother-daughter retreats or conferences?
Yeah. So the majority of our attendees are usually girls and their moms, or girls and their moms and the girls' friends. So yes, every retreat that we do, conference, we say for young women and the women who love them. So we have a ton of moms who bring their daughters year after year after year. And also grandmothers who want to bring their granddaughter, or, maybe a college girl who wants to bring the girls in her youth group. So our heart is, the message, of course, transcends age, right? It's about our value and our identity in Christ, which is the same regardless of how old you are. But we recognize that there's a need for these younger girls and young women to really hear the message of what it means to be wonderfully made, to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. And so our emphasis is on them.
Sure.
But it's very intergenerational. So yeah, we always say for young women and the women who love them.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So if someone like, Mackenzie Bezos, all of a sudden, you wake up and in your donor advised fund connected with your ministry, you all of a sudden see, $1 million that's been donated. What would you do? Like, what are your dreams and hopes that you would love to do?
You get me so excited. Yeah, it's amazing. We are, I would say, a tiny but mighty ministry. We don't have a full staff or anything. So to be able to have those resources would just be exhilarating. Right now, there's about 22 million girls and young women between the ages of 13 and 24. So we would love to really do the social media campaign in a really beautiful, creative way where every young woman in our country hears you are fearfully and wonderfully made by God with love in God's image for a purpose. If we could just creatively get that message out to every single girl and woman, it gets me so excited, and we can do that. So, as we're dreaming up this social media campaign, which we are so excited about, we're just in its infancy stages right now, but we're on a rescue mission. I think as women of faith, this is our time. This is happening on our watch.
Our watch, right?
And it's time for women of faith to come together, because these girls are in darkness. Their lives are on the line. So, yeah, I think I would, how can we get that message? That, they're loved. There's a purpose. There's hope for them, to the masses. So I think that would be $4 million,
Yeah. Hey.
To get, if every young woman could hear that message in a really beautiful way and get connected. So that would be awesome. We also film young women's testimonies. So we beautifully capture their stories, their testimonies. So we'd love to do more of that.
It's almost like that movie, The Social Experiment. You could do it from the Christian perspective of being fearfully and wonderfully made, and show a girl where she starts and without having that foundation. And then she understands the power of the gospel, and Christ died for her and has always had a beautiful plan for her life, and then watch it flourish based on scripture and, incorporating social media in a healthy way going forward to give the viewer, healthy tools to live in this world in which we live. That could be really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to do a multi-city young women's conference tour, again, for young women and the women who love them, their moms or grandmothers, their mentors or youth leaders, where we bring in some phenomenal women, role models to speak to these girls. Documentary. I think the mental health system is very broken, as we all know. I know that when I was 18, suicidal, one point even drove to the Golden Gate Bridge with intention to end my life by jumping off. I was admitted to the hospital and I was put on antidepressants and sent home three days later, only because I promised that I wasn't going to hurt myself. Wow. So the mental health care that our girls are receiving is not holistic. They're not getting that healing on the body, spirit, soul level. Right. They're being handed medications while they have complete access to social media, which is destroying their mental health. And so all the money in the world would love to create these beautiful residential homes, where girls could come and recover and heal and, truly be healed and transformed. I think that would be amazing. So yeah, if she wants to come over, we'll have all kinds of,
I love it.
All kinds of things we can do is really to share the love and hope of Christ, and to see girls and women not only know their value, but really live fully alive and really step into the incredible lives, that God really created us for.
I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because one of the sponsors of this podcast is the National Christian Foundation of California. And how that works, for those listeners who aren't aware of the National Christian Foundation, it is a donor advised fund, and people do their charitable giving through the National Christian Foundation. Once you've given the money, it's no longer yours. It's held in that fund until you grant it out. And some people are gifting $100, but some people are gifting much, much larger amounts. Maybe they've sold a business, they've sold a residential property, and that money is going in their donor advised fund. And the person receives, a great tax deduction for that gift. But sometimes people don't have a real clear strategy of how they want to give those funds. But what I have found in my work as a Charitable Advisor and Philanthropy, is that often people are passionate about almost like an umbrella over, like they grew up and they had a divorced parents, family unit, and then they don't want that for their family. And so all of their charitable giving goes into families and doing whatever is needed to, invest that way. Or someone else might have a connection with homelessness or anti-trafficking. And so people have their passions, but sometimes they don't see the power that, like, even a small gift to a nonprofit can make the world of difference. So we're talking like millions, but many people have millions in donor advised funds, across the United States. The last I heard was like there was $1.3 trillion that's sitting in donor advised funds. It's already been given 2,500 donor advised fund providers. So I always love to use this podcast as a platform, because maybe there is a listener who has given that money into her donor advised fund, and she hears your story and goes, yes, that's exactly what that money is there for. And I want to release it, to this organization. So you never know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, we're very excited. We definitely know God is on the move, and it's so neat to see the men and women he's bringing alongside us. And, we have so many other dreams. We'd love to have like a booth at like Coachella, or some of the music festivals where, girls can find themselves in really dangerous situations. We would love to meet them where they're at, and have a gospel tract that we've written that we're going to be handing out, and share with them there. And so yeah.
Well, that reminds me, my prior job was with this company called Glue out of Boulder, and they were connected with the He Gets Us campaign, and they would go to the various cities with the football games with the colleges. And then they would have that tailgate company that it was like a U shape you'd walk through, and just tons, everything was for free. You get free Pringles, free beer, anything. But then they had the He Gets Us, all about Jesus for free. And you could throw a football, but that would be really cool if you were represented there to reach, the young college gals. That would be perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely committed to saying, how can we make the biggest impact and save the most lives, and bring the most hope to girls and women, however we can, in the most creative, powerful ways. So,
yes. Well, you're a podcast host, and you're already getting your message out through your podcast as well, not only your books, but it's fun to watch, you in all these different avenues and lanes, getting this message out, and then being so clear about your mission. You've done this for 20 years. And so you're seeing the need is getting greater, and then really trying to capitalize on what resources can we deploy to have the most impact. So very, very cool. So you're in Santa Barbara and you're with your husband. How often do you guys get to surf?
Quite a bit, actually. My husband probably surfs at least 3 times a week. I try to go, as often as I can. I don't surf as big of waves as he does. I mostly like to longboard at the Point Break by us, but I just broke my fibula from surfing. So I've been out of it for a little while. Yeah, my big longboard hit me on the outside of my leg and snapped my fibula. So, but yeah, I love to get out there mostly on a longboard. So maybe once a week, depending how the waves are.
And have you trained your golden retriever to sit on the board and ride the wave?
I have a picture of her here on my bulletin board where my husband threw her on a surfboard when she was like 9 weeks old, and she's terrified. So now anytime she sees him with the surfboard, she runs the other way. But she does like the water, and her name is Gidget, which of course was
so cute
surfer girl.
Yeah, I love that. So. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I just think what you're doing is amazing, and it's just a real privilege to have you on the show. And I guess what I'd love to just throw it back in your court at this point, before I ask for your favorite book you're reading, Bible verse and bargain, is anything else that we haven't talked about that you would love to, use this platform to promote or talk about?
Sure. Well, the teaching series I do is pretty unique. So if you have a teen daughter, junior high daughter, maybe you're a youth leader, That's a really great resource that we have. There's not really a resource like that because I touch upon, like I said, all the hot button issues from eating disorders to body image to sexuality, mental health, social media from a biblical perspective. So that is on our website at wonderfullymade.org. I think the books that I write, with really excited. One thing that I hope to with Social Media Reset is that as many girls and women will do the experience together and really reimagine what our lives could be like when we live more in the rhythms God created us to live. This isn't a world, right, we were designed to live in. Right. And so when we come together and we wake up to the gift of our lives and we turn our hearts to God and we cultivate genuine community with one another. So would love for any girls or women listening, like, hey, what if I went through this with like the women in my Bible study or book club? And as we do, like maybe pray for today's girls, like our younger generation, as we're detaching from that space, like wake up to the gift of our lives, follow the ways of God, not the ways of the world. And as our souls are restored, we can pray for younger girls, for freedom and healing from them. So, thanks.
No, that's wonderful. And it also makes me think of like church partnerships and how great would it be if you were connected with, and maybe you already are, but some of these mega churches across the country. I mean, my kids used to have like 1,800 kids at their youth group, and they all had their Wednesday night, Tuesday night small groups, and how great if they did that in those high school groups together. So that's great. Lots of potential with your book coming out. I love it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. What's your favorite Bible verse?
It's hard to pick one, of course. I will say right now, I'm just meditating a lot in Philippians 4:8. Whatever is good, whatever is right, whatever is pure, noble, lovely, excellent, admirable, think on these things. I've just been really meditating on that a lot because the power of our minds, the way God created our minds, is just so amazing, that we can rewire, our brains can be physiologically transformed, and for me, that's so important because I've been as mentally broken as you can be, and through God's grace, by meditating on his truth, on all that is good and lovely and true, like he has healed and transformed me. And just the power of our minds to, when we fix upon what is good and what is lovely and what is beautiful. So that's definitely a recipe for mental fitness, which we all need so much in this world. So
definitely.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a gal who I need to reach out to because I really would love to have her on this podcast. But she had her girls who were her daughter and her son who were teenagers, and she was, having more time in her life and thought, what should I devote my life to now? And maybe I'll start memorizing some more scripture. And so she was ordinary, not like photographic memory or anything, just ordinary like you and me. And so she started memorizing chapters and then books of the Bible. And then she started doing retreats all over the world. And last I heard, she had memorized 20 books of the Bible, the entire book. So she will just stand there and say the book of James, and start reciting it verse by verse. And yet you think of, with God telling us the power of his word and sharper than a two-edged sword. And it's right there. Like all of us have so many Bibles on our shelves. And then, in the persecuted church where they're sharing pages because it's illegal where they live. And yet if we don't do the hard work of memorizing it, then it's not implanted in us when it needs to be, God wants to call it forward. So I love that you mentioned that verse, because I think he's given us his word that's a real weapon here in this fallen world in which we live. So I was thinking you might say Psalm 139 about being fearfully and wonderfully made.
My favorite Psalm actually is Psalm 71. It's actually my favorite Psalm. Yeah. But
okay, what about a current book that you're reading? Or maybe you read it before, but you love it.
Yeah, well, I am on a John Maxwell binge right now, just learning a lot more about leadership. So I have about 3 different books I'm reading of his simultaneously. One including The Everyday Leader, where he just has a daily reading about leadership. Finishing up The Anxious Generation again, just going through that one more time. It's definitely an important book if you're a mom or pastor or, oversee young ones. It's a really important book, The Anxious Generation. And yeah, so.
John, going back to John Maxwell, he had a big influence on my life as well. And I love how whatever season he's in or his parents were in, they would live it to the full. I remember him talking about his dad at 91, being in an independent living facility and not thinking of it as, oh, my life is over, but the complete opposite of, okay, I'm 91. I can be the greeter and I can say hello to everybody who comes here and just, maximizing our gifts, our talents. And I think that's what a real generous person does, is they're using all that they have, for God's kingdom. And you are certainly a generous girl with how you devoted your life to this whole subject and topic. So, okay. And then your bargain.
Yes, well, I'm wearing it right now. There's a certain line of shirts I really like that are awfully expensive at retail value. So I saw this one on eBay. So been keeping an eye for them on eBay, and you can get some good ones, fairly reasonable. And so that was, my Nation LTD shirt from eBay.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I read about a girl whose dad was a really famous fashion designer, and she only buys her clothes from eBay. And she'll just track the other designers that she loves. So it's great. I love the site Real. Like, I bought a dress for Mother of the Bride from that site, and then I resold it. And, you get the money back basically for the dress. And
yeah. And I know my mom told me I haven't looked into that one. That might be some trouble too. I'll have to start looking at that one too.
Well, I figure as long as I'm making up what I'm spending by selling, then I'm good. I net zero. So
that's probably a better plan for me to get on than the plan I'm on right now.
Well, thank you so much, Allie, for just being on this podcast and all your connections, all the ways in which you've used God to transform your story to be such a blessing to the world. And like you said, you're only getting started. I think you're really fulfilling a unique niche, and no one else that I'm aware of is doing what you're doing. So God bless you just on that journey. And I would love if you wouldn't mind if you could pray us all out, because I think our listeners, whether they're 20 years old or 70, 75 years old, like, everybody can benefit from just having a healthy understanding of how beautiful and fearfully, wonderfully made each woman is. So,
yeah. Dear God, I thank you so much for each and every girl and a woman listening right now, God. I thank you that you chose her before the foundations of the world, God, that you loved her into existence, God, and that she is not the result of random cosmic collisions, but she has been intentionally created by you with love and awe and dignity and worth, God. And I ask, Jesus, that you clothe her with the fruit of your Spirit, with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control, God, that you go before her, you hem her in behind and before, God, that you fulfill the desires of her heart, that you protect her, and that you work all things together for good in her life, and that you do immeasurably more than she can ask, dream, or imagine in her life through your power and for your glory, in Jesus' name.
Amen. Beautiful prayer. Thank you, Allie. God bless you. And we'll look forward to connecting the next time.
Thanks, Kim.
Okay.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Generous Girl podcast. We're so glad that you're here. And if you know of someone that you think needs to be a guest on this podcast, please reach out to us. New episodes are released every other week, and you can follow us on YouTube and on all platforms. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.